They're going to be so much fun. We have a set of these single fold A2 style, and then this skinny flap. It's a dual flap from the left and the right. Those are really fun. And then a nice single fold 5x7 as well. I try to take it easy on you this month and just offer up a couple of unique techniques and maybe a structure or two that are new to you, but it should be smooth sailing. Maybe I should have said smooth surfing. I don't know. Let's see. I've got my instructions here, the Surf Shop kit, and my accordion pocket file to keep us organized. So basically the 3 sets of cards will each have their own pocket, A, B, C. I'll put any scraps or miscellaneous pieces that I didn't necessarily assign on pocket D. And we're not going to have too many scraps this weekend, but a few. And then this lives underneath my trimmer base. I'm using my Fiskars Guillotine here. Love this trimmer. If you don't have it, it's just a tool that you should have. It's like if you're a runner and you have the best pair of shoes you can buy, you know, that's what you have to do to take up the sport of running. This is what you need for the sport of crafting, not for surfing. You need this kit if you're a surfer or if you just like to be outside in the sunshine and fresh air. Here I've got the instructions as well. Later on, we'll use a score pal. I'll set these envelopes out of the way. We are going to be using them, and we have a nice big pile of embellishments here. I'm going to set those aside too. Before we start the trimming process, I like to put the paper in its trimming order so that we don't get anything mixed up along the way. So we're going to begin with something really nice and clean. 1 sheet of white. Then find the blue. Now there are 2 blues here. So we're calling this one aqua and this one blue. So the blue is the darker of the 2. Find a sheet of the green. 1 more aqua. Then yellow. Nice sunny yellow. Then green. Another yellow. Aqua. It gets easier the fewer papers we have. Blue. White. Make sure it's plain on both sides. Then you have these prints. There's 2 of them. So put them both face down. And the cut apart that has the little van on it that says "Have a wonderful birthday," that goes next. And then this one has the little dotty border on the edge. That'll be last. Flip him face down. Then we'll flip everything back over to the top, which is white and looks just like the other side. Maybe I should have thought about that before I started with white. Okay, so let's take this sheet of white paper, just that one piece. Make sure it's plain on both sides because you don't want to accidentally grab the print at wrong side up, right? Right? And let's cut at the nice hole number of 8. Always stabilize before you trim. Always make sure that the paper is flush at the top here and you're at the right measurement in inches, not in centimeters, okay? So that's at 8. Now rotate and trim at 10.5. Okay, this big piece goes in pocket A. Boy, it's kind of big. Maybe I'll set this aside. I don't want that in the way. There's a little piece that fell off the end. That's going to go in D. And this last strip, let's just trim it in half at 6 inches. And both pieces are placed in pocket C. Now we're at the blue. This time we do have to check our grain direction. We didn't do that with the white because none of those pieces will ever be folded. There will be folded pieces here, and we want that fold to eventually be in the same direction as the grain. So define the grain, hold by the center of an edge, wiggle the paper a little bit and see how it performs. Is it wiggly or is it stiff? And rotate to a different neighboring side. This is much more stiff, inflexible. This wants to fold that way, so I want you to put the paper in the trimmer with it dipping from the top of the trimmer down to the bottom. North to south, however you want to look at it. Let's cut this at 10.5, 8.25, and 6. Rotate the 6-inch piece and cut at 9. And notice I did let all the other paper accumulate to the right of the blade here. This is going to go in pocket A also. I think this will be okay. Not too big for it, I guess. And this, believe it or not, D, that little rectangle that fell off the end. Now you have 2 strips that are the same size. Stack them neatly together. They're 2 1/4 by 12 right now. We'll trim them at 6. And they both go, all 4 of them actually, are set aside to be scored. I don't want to file them quite yet. And then this you can place in pocket D. We are moving on to page 2 of our instructions, and I just want to point out that when the grain direction does matter, there will be an arrow on the diagram indicating the way I want the paper to dip. So that arrow is dipping left to right. So if I hold it like this, it's very stiff, very droopy. So left to right. Same with the aqua. We're going to trim these at the same time. If you don't feel comfortable with that, just do it with one sheet and then back up to the spot and then do it with the other. We'll begin by trimming at 8 1/2. These are a series of cuts you would make if you were just doing a standard card from a 12 by 12 sheet of paper. Then rotate, trim at 11 and 5 1/2. There you go. You just got 4 card bases. They all need to be scored, so I'll set them aside. And then this little piece, the strip here, fell off the end. I decided not to waste it. I'm just going to assign it right away. But first, we'll trim at 7. And pop this in pocket C. There is a little piece. We're going to trim that. No, we're not going to trim that. That's a scrap. Sorry. Hope I didn't frustrate you too badly there. Okay, now this final strip, you're going to have to bear with me a little bit. I have one weird number. It's just necessary. First of all, we need to start out at 11 3/4. It's a really big number to create a very small piece. 11 3/4. Now we're moving to 10 1/8. So that is halfway between 10 and 10 1/4. You'll find 10 1/8. That little hash mark right there. Not so bad. Then 8 1/2 and 4 1/4. So here you have some rectangles, and there should be 2 sets, all the same, going in pocket B. Now you have 2 sets of these other little rectangles that fell, and we're going to trim these horizontally at 3 1/8. So there's 3. 3 1/8 is halfway between 3 and 3 1/4. There's 3 1/8. Boom. And then another at 3 1/8. Okay, that gives me a set of these 4 little guys, and they're going to go in pocket B. I'm going to just go on the assumption that you're not going to use these or those other little pieces that fell off the end. They'll join with these in my disposable scraps. Moving on to a sheet of yellow. This time our dip needs to go from the top to the bottom. So test my grain here. Dipping easy this way, and the pretty little green color. Definitely this way. And we'll begin at 11 1/4 on the pair. So both at the same time, yellow and green. And 7. Rotate the 7 and trim at 10. That gives us a 5 by 7 card base, folding in the right direction. Set these aside to be scored. And these 2 pieces we'll use, so put them in pocket C. The next strip, trim in half at 6. All 4, pocket B. And then you have this strip. I decided to use it I think on the inside of the cards, though. We'll trim at 7 inches. Let me see. Maybe I'll just do it here. I can see a little better. The long ones in C, and the shorties, put those in D. All right, another one, yellow. This time we got to dip left to right. We're just all over the place with our grain direction. It just depends on how the paper ends up getting folded, right? Okay, here we go. Let's trim this one at 10. Now rotate. This is a little bit different than what I normally do. Our first cut's at 7 1/2. And then 3. Now rotate the 3-inch piece and cut at 5. Okay, we made 4 narrow panels here, pocket C. Then you have a set, 2 sets actually, of these longer, narrower pieces. Those get scored into card bases. Then you can take this guy, and we're going to cut at 6 1/2 and 3 1/4. These skinnier, smaller ones, the shorties, they all go in pocket B. B as in boy, and then this is actually a scrap. You can put those in D, the larger of the set. Okay, continuing on, we're taking the blue. Make sure it dips top to bottom this time. The arrow's going up and down, going this way. We'll cut at 11. Now I know this is a lot of trimming, but we're making 12 cards. And we'll have very few scraps. Now we cut at 7. Rotate and trim at 10. So this we set aside to be scored. And the other little rectangular scraps that fell go in pocket C. Take this strip and trim at 6. I'll bring that up a little bit. All of these go in pocket C. So I'm falling off the end here. I decided to go ahead and use them. So let's trim at 7. You'll see the theme. All of this goes in pocket C. They're mainly, I think I use them on the inside of the card, so it's optional, but I just decided to go with it. Now, these prints do not get folded. That means you don't have to worry about grain direction. We're going to look at the artwork this time. So for this one, it goes in the trimmer with the surfboards pointing up and down, like vertical surfboards. All right. And I have that pictured in the instructions as well, the way it should look when you trim it. We'll cut at 9. And 5 3/4. Rotate and trim at 8 3/4. Take this piece and place it in pocket A. Then you have the little rectangle that fell off the end. Trim that at 4. Pocket B. And this one is a scrap for D. Pick up the next strip. This was 3 1/4 by 12 right now. We'll cut at 8 and 4. All 3 pieces are the same, going in pocket B with its other friend that we made earlier. It happens to be the same size. Okay, then we have this final piece, trimming at 6 3/4. Pocket C and this long one, and the shorty goes in A. All right, now this, we want horizontal surfboards. Doesn't really matter which horizontal, as long as they're horizontal. And we will cut at 11 1/2, 9 1/2, 7 1/2, 3 3/4. Now rotate this one. Actually, if you just take the 2 pieces that were most recently created, the one in your trimmer base, the one next to it, they are the same size. Stack them neatly. 11 1/2, 5 3/4. Stack all the 4 that match. Pocket C. And you will have a few stragglers that fell off the end. You can put those in D. They're very usable, actually. They're kind of cute. All right, now the next 2 strips are the same as well. Those can go in together. And 9 1/2, 4 3/4. You'll have 2 sets that are the same height. Pocket B. And the 2 little rectangles off the end are scraps. This one, if you want to use it, you can trim it at 7. And naturally, I use that in card set C. This little guy is a scrap. Originally, when I made my samples, the surfboards were running the other way, so it made more sense to use that little piece. Okay, now we've arrived at the cut aparts, and for my newbies, a quick little tutorial. You do need to remove the paper outside of the corner cutting guides, and that's a corner cutting guide right there. So I'm going to line that up with my trimmer blade, both at this corner and that one, all the corners, and just work my way around the whole piece. So I look here on my first cut to try to line that up nicely, and I may have to go back and clean that up a little bit. And then when I rotate, I can now more clearly see at the bottom corner down here and the top corner, line that up and slice. And I rotate it a third time here. Line that up nicely. And again, another rotation. Now I should be able to look over here and see a 12. And then this is the 5th rotation, but this time I'm going to do that cleanup cut. There we go. I can get rid of all of these pieces. I love that my trimmer is capable of taking a little shaving off of something. And making sure we have our tags, little tags here on the right. We'll cut at 10.5, 7, 3.5. We'll just do them one at a time. I'm going to rotate and cut at 9.5. 9, 8.5, and 4.25. Both of these go in pocket B. And then you have these really little skinny guys. They're going to go in A. And then the last piece in B. This guy, B. Okay, now this next one, it's the same deal. So 9.5, 9, 8.5, and 4.25. Once more, these two pieces B, lots going in there. The skinny people in A, and then this surfboard guy, C. All right. Just a little ways to go here, my friends. Nice and easy. We'll put the surfboards on our right, but it's either way, it's the same. 9, 6, and 3. Use that a lot to make 4 cards. All of these go in pocket C. Next, we're going to do the same numbers again. 9, 6, 3, pocket B. Now, if you wanted to, you could use scissors as well. Lob off the little triangular corners to truly make it a tag shape. That's up to you. I'll just pop all these in pocket B. I wanted to just mention that. Almost there. One more sheet of cut aparts. We're going to remove those outer corners, edges, and try to get that down to a nice 12 by 12. Sometimes you have to like level it out. Like, I don't know. This is why I have you do this last step, because when I have a big, gigantic machine do it, it's not accurate enough for my taste. So we just do this last step together. And our final turn for a neaten up cut. There we go. Let's begin with this stodgy border on the right. And it's just a tiny little cut at 11 3/4. Then 8 1/4. 4 3/4. Rotate. Make sure hang 10's on the right. We'll go with 11. 8 1/4. 5 1/2. 2 3/4. All of this, including the hang 10, it all goes in C. Boy, we got a lot of stuff in these pockets here. Don't let that fall on the floor at this point. It'll be a lot of sadness. Okay, then on this next strip, make sure the VW here is on the right. We're going to go 9 1/2 and 4 3/4. All of these pieces, pocket A. This one, make sure the wave's on the right. And we'll be back at 9 1/2, 4 3/4, these two larger ones in A and the last little wave one in B. The stripe, I used it in C, so we'll just pop it in there. I'm sure I trimmed it, but it's so little. Phew, I think we've made it to the end of our official trimming. We will need the trimmer just one more time, but I'm not gonna worry about that quite yet. Let's just swap this out for a Score Pal. If you don't have a Score Pal, again, relating back to the sport of running, if you're gonna be a runner, you need the shoes and you might need some other, equipment, maybe even a treadmill. That would be thousands of dollars. This is not, but this is very necessary tool for if you're a card maker. And of course, we've accumulated a nice healthy little pile of things that we need to score, and then we can file it in the appropriate pocket based on whatever card we're making. So in here on the top of the stack, I've got a white and a blue large piece, and then a little further down I have a green and a yellow. All these pieces are 7 by 10. We're going to place them into the Score Pal horizontally, and I like that there is a horizontal measurement along the side. I didn't even really pay attention to that for years of use, but I can see this is 7. Here's my 10. And I am using, rather than the plastic thing that comes with it, I use a metal tip stylus. I like how this works pretty well. And I'll score it 5. And then repeat for the remaining 3 7 by 10s. They all get scored horizontally at 5 inches, and eventually, of course, they will be folded in half and placed in pocket C for now. I'll fold them in half later on, but that's the base for our big 5 by 7 card. Next, we have a set of 4 of these smaller pieces. Let's see, 4.5 by 10. And these need to be horizontal as well. So let's score these at 6 1/4. And yes, we're not scoring down the middle. That's intentional. Find the other one. It's yellow, 6 1/4, and another blue, 6 1/4. Be careful you don't go to the dot. That's 6 3/8. We want 6 1/4. And one more yellow. Don't ask me how I know about that possible accident that can happen. And yes, they're all scored the same, going in pocket B this time. Next, we have a nice, easy, typical single fold card. There actually is an asterisk by that number on the Score Pal because it's the one you use the most often for a standard A2. So it's 8.5 by 5.5, scored horizontally at 4 1/4. 4 1/4, and there should be 4, 2 aqua and 2 green. All right, pocket A on this one. Making our way back. And now we have these little blue pieces left. Do you have those? If you don't, just take a second, look for them. We did trim them earlier. They are 6 inches long. We're going to score them at 5. So horizontally again at 5. You won't be able to score it vertically at 5 because the paper is too narrow. Typically in my instructions, I don't say horizontally if it's not possible to cut it horizontally or something. These, pocket B, and that concludes our scoring time. To begin with set A, I've got my instructions on page 4 here. Yes, page 4, and you can see a pretty little diagram there. So let's go ahead and get started with the task at hand. Remember, way back when, long time ago, we trimmed a really large piece of white, and I just had you set it aside. And we can also go ahead and empty everything from pocket A, being aware that there are those tiny little sentiment strips that we trimmed out of this as well. So just don't lose track of those. Keep everything nearby and handy. What I'm looking for at this point is an oversized piece of blue and an oversized print. The rest should be your card bases. So set those aside for now. So here we have our white, a blue, and a nestable that's printed. And I came up with this sort of clever idea when I started to wonder how people make cards with those cute little angled folds. Now I am using a liquid adhesive for this part. And the reason I'm going to do this is because I'm not exactly sure where we're going to end up cutting this piece, and I want it to be adhered well and not just coming up and falling apart. So I'm just going to nest this. And if you want to use your regular adhesive, you can. Just make sure you kind of go through the middle areas to make sure you have good adhesion everywhere. I could do this with my ATG, but it would just be a lot. It just wouldn't be as economical, okay? Now, when I apply glue to the back of this and layer it onto this white base, I'm going to do it at as deep of an angle as I can without touching the edges. That is illustrated right in your image in the instructions as well. In case you want to do this again, you can follow those cutting instructions and repeat the process. It looks so cute with all different kinds of prints. In fact, I made one with fun and games paper, and I've already sent them out. Like all the cards are used because they were so useful. It was really sweet, really nice and masculine, actually. Now I'm angling this, and again, do not let the corner touch the edge of the white. Okay? And you notice I did use the glue again on that other layer, just because I wanted good coverage for when we trim this. So, speaking of trimming, let's bring in our trimmer, and we're going to turn this into 4 card panels. First one, we're going to cut vertically at 4. That cuts this in half. You're cutting through 3 layers of paper, so I'm not going to stack these. Rotate and trim at 5 1/4. Bring in the other one, 5 1/4. You've just made 4 card panels. I was so excited when I realized one could do this. Aren't they fun? Right? Okay. I don't know. I got very excited when that happened. Now I'm going to take a card base. This one's green. It's got an indentation of the score line and the bump. Find the bump and bury that bump on the inside of the fold. I always like to remind everybody of that because for years and years, I folded my cards backwards, inside out. And the correct way, the stationer's way, is to bury the bump of the score line on the inside of the fold so that you have a pretty fold on the outside. It's much prettier if you do it this way. Notice I'm also reinforcing the score lines as I fold them. I'm always lining up the edges. Even though I've scored this, I still want to visually make sure that the edges are aligned on the bottom. Okay, so a vertical in blue, a horizontal, and a vertical. This is called the deal. I am dealing out my cards. Now I have these super fun panels, and I can probably replicate kind of what I did because I did it the same way. I've got one that looks like this, and then we're gonna go horizontal on these. Oh, I'm gonna go this one this way, and this one this way. Yours will probably work. If you did the same angle that I did, this is how it's going to work out. I promise. It's just pretty amazing. Now, we have our sentiments. Happy birthday to you. You're the absolute best. Thinking of you. And again, happy birthday to you. I utilized a cute little charm on each one. So you can add that if you would like. Now the inside, we have, this one's really kind of funny. I heard old people like getting cards. Maybe there's a limited number of people you would send that to, but I frankly can think of a lot I would send that to. They would see the humor. Okay, and I think it's true. They do like getting cards, and you know what? They don't get enough cards anymore. Okay, so off your pulpit there, Trisha. We have a little card to say a big thanks to you. That's this one. And then consider this card a hug that's folded in half. And you don't look a day older than what you looked like yesterday. A few little extras. I just went ahead and signed them because I used them. So the print goes with the first card, and this cute little guy, I put him with the last one, and the others remain unadorned. Of course, you can reach into pocket D at any time and decorate the insides of these cards further. Now I'm reaching for the smallest of the 3 sizes of envelopes. And I'm going to take that 4th card and pop everything in there. The 3rd card, pop everything in there. And of course, this is because all 4 of these cards assemble exactly the same way. And to save a little time, we're just going to do one of them together, and that will be the first one. So these are all set, and I typically hand them off to Karen, to her delight. she can just pick up where I left off and make another set. I've already made mine, right? Oh, this is really hard. You're just gonna go, oh man, I don't know if I can do it. So some adhesive, enter, and center this onto your folded card base. I've been extolling my love for these cute little foam adhesive circles. I always cut them in half because they go so much further, and then I have a pull tab on each side, plus they're going to be small enough to work with for this project. I take my little strip and I alternate directions. I'm going to be pretty generous here. Well, it's really only 2. And then it's so easy to pull off the backing. It's incredible. And I'm going to line this up with the edge of my card. And if you really wanted to get fancy, you could make sure that the ruler ensures you're straight and level. I like to be level rather than walking away and realizing I was running downhill. You can be flush with the card or flush with the panel. I think I was flush with the panel last time. Either way, this guy can just sit right under there. So I'm going to take, well, I'm not going to do it because I would do this last after I do the inside. So let's open it up. This is really difficult. You're going to take this piece, the sentiment, and center it. And then this just gets attached to the left side of the card. It fits in there really nicely with the reveal on all sides, 3 sides. Then what I would do if I were you is just take some of this bookbinding glue that I've got in our fancy needle tip applicators. Okay, and pop that underneath the leaf. All done. It's just the sweetest card, so simple. If you were a stamper, you could just stamp your sentiment and add it. That's what I did on my first test round when I was playing around with this formula. And I was smitten. I just didn't want to stop. I wanted to go and get every print we had from any card kit and do this because it is adorable. So going over the remaining cards, this is the one we made identically together. And then we have the horizontal, you're the absolute best, again with this charm hanging, just hit with the loop, hanging loop hidden beneath. Then here, because of the way this was positioned, I decided to top my charm with some wax cord from my stash. This is just a white wax cord. It's real easy to work with, very stiff, so it's easy to make bows with. That's why I do that. Here, just added this to the left facing side of the card. And again, finish that with a bow, anchoring that to the corner of the card. Very, very sweet. And again, aligned with the white panel, not with the card itself like I did here. However, that's okay too. That is set A, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this technique and that you will use it again. I do, again, if you follow the instructions, all the trimming, that will take you down that path. An 8 by 10.5, a 6 by 9, and the print would be 5 3/4 by 8 3/4. But the joy really is that I help you use all the other pieces you would make in the process of trimming the pieces necessary for this technique as well. Here I am at pocket B already. Now I know there's a lot of stuff in this pocket, but each piece will find a home, I assure you. And it's not difficult at all to put this together. You're really gonna have fun with this set. I love it. I love how it turned out. Okay, so I'm just doing a little sorting so I can see what I've got. Sort panels by size. You can see, just as if you were shuffling a deck of cards after a round, you have to go back and kind of get everything put to rights before you deal again, right? The analogy really works. Okay, well first maybe I'll take the cards that are obviously the card bases. Those are the largest pieces in the set. Find your bump, bury it by folding it on the inside, and burnish. Sometimes I will, and this you don't have to worry about lining anything up. That's really nice. Sometimes you can just, I'll still double check to make sure the edges are level here before I crease. And if you want, you can do them in batches. So fold, 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 and then stack neatly and give it a single swipe for a burnish. Really quick when you're making a large batch of cards, nothing better. Let's deal out these cards. So we'll start with the blue. and the blue. They're both horizontal. And then the yellows will be horizontal as well. Now notice I'm putting the flap on the left. Next, we'll take these larger panels from what we're doing out here. We've got yellow going with this one, obviously, because we can't put the yellow panel on the yellow card. And then a yellow and a yellow. Now we have these other panels. These are gonna nest. So if you look, this large flap here, you're gonna have a green that will fit. You don't want the blue, of course, because the card base is blue. And then our aqua can be here. It looks fabulous. Next, we can add a printed panel to layer on top of that. And yes, one will be sideways surfboards. No one's going to notice. Each one will get one of these skinny little strips and a nesting panel for that strip. That's the print. Lots of wonderful print happening around here. We have some other panels in here, some that are plain colored, right? One's larger, one's smaller. So I'm going to go on the larger. I'll take blue, or aqua rather, aqua, yellow, yellow, and then I'll do green, green, blue, blue. Among the goodies in your kit, you're going to find a glassine envelope, put one on each card. Then you're going to find this large wave. Let's do the big ones. These both get the large wave. Then the blue bus and the green bus. And this, we have a few extra pieces. So this first one will get an extra horizontal wave, and this one here gets an extra vertical wave. Then we have just waving hello, obviously, and then relax and enjoy on the bottom. Okay. Wow, that's a lot of goods, again, being distributed to these cards. You're going to be floored when you see how easily all that work we did pays off in the end, I promise. Notice I'm taking the next largest size envelope and adding the card components to each envelope so Karen can have smooth surfing later on. Here's card 1. It's our model now. And the first thing we're going to do is find this narrow strip that has the score line and bury the bump of the score line to create a 1-inch tab. If you would like, you can go ahead and burnish that too. Now, if you're doing these at home and you want to finish all the cards, I'd highly recommend just finishing them. Like, do all 4 at the same time. Just set it up as an assembly line. Now, I want you to take the panel that we kind of tucked into the card base, and I want you to find about a 1/2 inch from the bottom edge of that panel when it's horizontal. And then bring this piece down to that height. So I want this tab of our little skinny strip wrapped around the right edge of this horizontal panel, about a 1/2 inch from the bottom. So I'm using my grid ruler here. Every cube on the ruler is 1/8 inch. So 4 cubes down, that's a 1/2 inch. So now I know this piece is on here nice and level. Okay, that's just the idea there. I'm gonna flip it over now and open that little flap and just put a little adhesive on it to stick it down. Then you can put adhesive on the whole thing and adhere it to the inside of your card with the other flap on the left. So that's how that's going to work. Cool, right? Obviously, we can do a little bit more nesting. So I'm going to line up this print and the green. It's the same on both sides. So if you were doing all 4 cards, you just align all 4 of them up and go down the line, nice and easy. Center this and center this. If you wanted to add more ribbon or something to this, you could certainly do that. I don't really want to add weight to this card because I wanted it to be really stable. Here we have some more nesting for the skinny panel. Getting our surfing message across here. Okay, now here we have the tag, just waving hello. And with scissors, I will clip off. If you haven't already done this, you'll need to remove the corners of the rectangle. And I'm going to adhere this to my mat. Now, earlier when we had to make those really weird cuts at like 3 1/8 and whatever that other one was. We were making a tiny little mat for this because it really sets it off. I know I just don't like to make you cut on those weird measurements, but sometimes it just gets the job done, right? Whatever color ribbon you want to use, we have a huge assortment for you here this month. And I'm going to cut a trapezoid shape, trapezoid, angle. When you fold it in half, you can bring it onto this. Grab your favorite stapler, mini or otherwise, staple. And this slides in to the cute little glassine bag. Now I can put a little adhesive on the back of the bag. I'm going to look at the bottom corners of the bag and edges and just try to center it. The flap will be more visible, right? Because it's not going to be backed by anything. Now, when I originally designed this card, I had this kind of in the middle. But I really wanted to increase the stability of the card using this piece as more of an anchor. So the way I'm going to attach this is to put some adhesive on the tip of the band. And I literally want to center this so that the bottom edge of this matches the bottom edge of the card. And that's why I wanted this panel, this strip, to be strategically applied about a ½ an inch from the edge, so this wouldn't be too weird looking. And that way the card really stands up nice on its own. Now, opening it up, this is going to go here and this will go here. I didn't do this on all the cards because I didn't really think of it until I was well into my card making, but that's where these fun little sequins can come in. I'll show you a cute little trick. Take a ruler here, and I'm just going to add a slit. So every little piece of art that Jacqueline designed here has this cute little weathered frame around it, and I'm going to cut a slit just above that frame opening. And then I can take my surfboards and I can tuck them into that little slit that I made. Now, what you can do is just cut off the bottom to change the height of your surfboards. So if I want, you know, Mama Bear, Papa Bear, and Baby Bear, I can do that. I can have them overlapping in there in a cute way, and then flip it over. Now I can see all of them. I have a tape dispenser that I always keep so I have a third hand, and just use some cellophane tape to tape those down. You could mess around with the glue, but you know, this just worked really slick. And now I've got my cute little surfboards there. Don't you love that? Oh, it's so adorable. Okay, so that's gonna go like this. Craig found those, and I just thank him for that keen eye. And this would have been a scrap, but it was rescued. So we'll add a wave here. And now, I mean, the card literally waves. It waves, hello, hello. Oh, that's so nice. Okay, that was card one. You can see on my sample, I never added the sequins because I hadn't thought of it yet, but that's how it goes sometimes. But I thought of it when I made this one. Another just waving hello. We have this guy with a sentiment on the inside. Have a wonderful birthday. And this one also has a wonderful birthday. Plenty of room for you to sign your name, but really you want to make sure your handwriting doesn't show maybe from this side if you don't want to. But those are your 4 set B cards. I hope you like them. We're getting toward the end, my friends. We've arrived at set C. So I'm going to pull these out of the pocket. A lot in there. A lot in there. And remember, everything from D can come out at any time as well, and you can incorporate these into the insides of your cards any way you like. So there's a little potential left in there, a little bit untapped potential. You'll be happy to know that with the page kit this month for Surf Shop, I had no scraps, not a single one. That was pretty exciting. I mean, it's nice to have goals, right? Card kits are a little easier, or a little more difficult to have no scraps because of the prescribed sizes. Now, sorted a little bit. I'm going to take my card bases and fold them all in half by burying the bump, checking my corners before I make that crease. And I'll do that in a batch this time. So after I fold these all, I'll stack them neatly and burnish with my bond folder 4 cards at a time. can flip it too. On the back page of my instructions, I'll start with a blue vertical and a green vertical, then white horizontal and yellow horizontal. Now let's find our 2x7 strips and we'll distribute these. So we've got a green, we should have 4 of them total. The blue here, the yellow, and the white. Now just on these horizontal cards, you're gonna find an extra strip. So I think I did the green here and blue, or aqua rather, on this one. There's a bunch of others, little horizontal strips. Those I just used on the insides of the card, so I might help you get those distributed later. Now the next largest sized plain panels, I'm gonna go white here, white, blue, and blue. You will notice there are 2 extra white panels. I used those on the inside of each card. So I'm going to put one with the blue and one with the yellow, just for fun. Each one will get a print. So I'm going to distribute some horizontals. These are going to be facing sideways. No big deal. Okay, continuing. We're going to have some smaller panels. We'll go yellow and yellow and aqua, aqua. Now we have our sentiments. Birthdays are like waves. Happiness comes in waves. Aloha and aloha. That means all the rest of these pieces were used on the insides of the card, so I'll walk you through that. This one gets the green strip with this dotty border and the sentiment that says, they just keep coming. Here, let's use this really large printed scrap. Then we've got some surfboards on a cut apart, congratulations, and a yellow strip. Here we've got a horizontal blue strip with some surfboards and hope all is swell. Here is the vertical blue, hope all is swell, and the hang 10. And I do see that I accidentally put in pocket D this other piece that I used with it. So that goes there as well. You will have a 7 and 5 inch strip left. I used the blue pieces of that, but they were trimmed at the same time. So these white are not used in the cards. Whew, wow, that's a lot of good stuff there. I will show you the finished cards of these, but in the meantime, we will of course make that first one together. So I'll take all the goods. We're gonna go in that envelope. These are the 5x7, or A7 rather, envelopes for the 5x7 cards. So they're slightly larger than that for a good fit. Okay, this is just a matter of doing a lot of nesting, and I'm gonna be using my ruler to help me with leveling. I don't want, with something like this, with these larger cards, sometimes I tend to glue things up or downhill, and I like to avoid that. So I'm gonna do just 1/8 of an inch. That's 1 cube on my ruler from the edge. I'll rest my strip that has adhesive on it right up to the ruler and drop it down. Now, if you miss, you can always just cut, cut to straighten off your edges, or maybe if your cut was a little off. In this case, I did pretty well, so I'm happy. This becomes a pear, so I will take this piece and put it on one of the white panels. I'll set this one aside for a minute with the innies. All that stuff. Okay, now birthdays are like waves. This is going to be nested onto the yellow panel. So basically I have like 3 sets of nesting panels. I had a lot of ribbon to work with, so let's go ahead and use some. I'm going to take 2 pieces of this green. I'm going to measure them to be a little longer than the height of that larger print nested panel. 2 pieces. Boom. This is where you need a little tape. It's nice to have it in the dispenser. Fold kind of in half and line up the center of this loop with the center of the card vertically on the left edge and tape the ends on the back. Take this piece, thread it through the loop, support from the left, pull on the right, And it gives you this little bow without giving you a knot. And the knots, you know, sometimes make me uneasy about sending a card because you don't want it to get caught by the post office for extra postage. Now I'm going to center this from top to bottom and attach it 1/2 inch from the edge of the card. So center with this card, which is 7 inches, would be 3.5. So I want my ruler to read 3.5 and 3.5. And if you don't care, just eyeball it. Right? You don't have to do it. I'm just trying to offer tips to up your game. It's like fresh parsley versus dried parsley. Okay, that's lovely. Now we have this last piece. This can be applied any way you wish in any spot. I kind of wanted it centered. And this is going to be about 1/8 inch from the right edge of the card and centered. So once again, I'm going to find my little 1/8 inch. Yeah, just make it generous. And I can center this. So I'm going to find a matching measurement here. It looks like it's 2.5. I'm going to drop it down. Oh, doesn't it look lovely? So simple. Now I can take some more of this ribbon because I had so much. And I'm going to do the rabbit ear style bow. It does make a small knot, but it's a tiny piece of ribbon. So make 2 ears, 2 loops, and cross them. The one from the right went over the one from the left. Then this one is going to go around and through the loop underneath. Pull, and that's not very attractive. But when you play around with it a little bit, and I like to shorten my loops, kind of pull, it gets more lovely as you work with it a little bit. For these smaller ribbons, I just do an angled cut on each end to finish that off. If you have access to glue lines, this is a great opportunity to use them. Sometimes it's just easiest to put it on the paper and burnish and then bring the bow to the line. That's lovely. Now we have all these other pieces remaining for the inside of our card. On my original, this panel was kind of an afterthought, and this is how I did this side, but I'm just going to do it a little differently. I'm going to take this white panel and go ahead and place it right in the middle of this card. And once again, you could use the ruler centering trick, but I think you have the idea now. Then I'll take this piece, and this is what I mean about using these little scraps that end up in the heap. Why, you know, if they add so much, let's just use them, right? So I use my ruler to keep it level. Then I'm going to come in with my liquid glue and run the glue along the right edge of that strip. And then I'll take this guy and add it. And since I didn't trim it, because it was so little, I'm just going to use scissors to cut that end off to match. And now I'm going to take my sentiment and add it to the card. And you've got a really lovely inside. Lots of decor in there that just makes it more interesting. It's a lot of space, so why not use it, right? So there's the outside and the inside. Quick tour of the other cards so you can see both sides. Here we have our chain link bow, I like to call it, because it links up like a chain. And another little satin yellow. That's a nice contrast there. I believe I did add foam adhesive circles to this one. Wow, lots of fun things on this one. I will use the little surfboards. I could have put them there too. There are plenty of them to go around. Generous portion here. Kept it simple. I added the folded trapezoid ribbon with the staple, and then just trim the edges off of these guys. But I do kind of like that tuck method a little bit better for applying those. So you won't have this piece of paper because I rotated the second sheet differently than when I made my sample, but it still would be cute. I hope all is well. Here again, we've got our ribbon stapled to the upper left corner of the Aloha. And then there's that panel, again, more of an afterthought here. I could arrange it anyway, right? And so the world is your oyster on that whole subject. So however you do the inside of the cards, have fun with it. You know, just kick it up a notch, right? that's the end. We've reached the end. This is set C, beautiful set of cards. Love the structures. And as a reminder, everything you just learned in this trimming process, you can repeat with papers from your stash to create another set of cards using the same formulas, resulting in the same structures. All you have to do is come up with the artwork, and that's the fun part, right? Okay, my friends, come and join me for the Surf Shop Page Kit Workshop if you haven't already. We're gonna have a lot of fun over there too. And if not, I will see you back here next month with our beautiful April collection.